Party.
Why?
Because in the end, if you think about him being, we didn't want DeSantis, we didn't want Haley, we didn't want Christie, we didn't want Ramaswamy. It's not about what it says about the Republican Party. It's about what it says about the Democratic Party. We didn't want DeSantis, we didn't want any impeached twice. 34 felony counts or 34 felony convictions, and they still elected him president. It's not about him winning. It was an indictment against the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party was offering to American citizens. We might sit up there and talk about, hey, you should be a party for the working class, which the Democratic Party was once known for. We want him.
What does that say about the Republican Party?
They're not known for that right now. Why? Because their message was catering towards others and towards other issues, and they forgot about the people that brought them there, that elevated the Democratic Party to what it was over these last few decades. That's why they lost.
Welcome back to Gossip Galaxy. Thank you for joining us, and let's begin. Stephen A. Smith was back on The View, and it seems like they forgot what happened the last time he was on. Back then, he completely dismantled their delusional worldview and refused to echo their Trump derangement talking points. But this time, he took it to a whole new level and went full MAGA, leaving the entire panel in utter disbelief. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. But let's dive in. First up, Stephen A. Smith explains to the panel why the Democratic Party is an absolute disaster. Asterisk, it's what I've always said, if the Democratic Party wants to keep pushing the narrative that Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon, they need to realize something. That doesn't make Trump look bad, it makes them look worse. Why? Because the American people chose the so-called 34-time felon over their candidate. Let that sink in. They want to call Trump an insurrectionist? Fine. But how bad must your policies and platform be if people would rather vote for an insurrectionist than you? The reality is, almost no one took those felony charges seriously because anyone with two eyes could see the Department of Justice was weaponized to go after Trump. They were so desperate that they twisted the law and manipulated the courts to nail him on something insignificant. And guess what? It destroyed all Democratic credibility. Asterisk. Now, here's another desperate talking point from the Democrats.
So Trump's only been in office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
They're claiming Trump's win wasn't a mandate. Why? Because, in their minds, that somehow makes their disastrous loss less embarrassing. But Stephen A. Smith wasn't having it. He hit the panel with a brutal reality check and let them know, yes, it was a mandate. No sugarcoating. It's like the Democrats lost a basketball game by 20 points and are trying to claim it wasn't a blowout because, teams before have lost by 30 or 40 points. Whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. But here's the thing, it doesn't matter how you spin it. You got absolutely shellacked. And trying to argue that it wasn't as bad as people think isn't the winning message you think it is. When states like California and Illinois almost go red, that's a major cultural shift. When Kamala Harris can't flip a single red county blue, that's a national rejection of the Democratic platform. Donald Trump is more popular than ever, and the Democrats' approval rating is in the 20s. They have no power in any branch of government, yet they're obsessed with convincing people that Trump doesn't have a mandate. Let me be clear, Democrats, your party is so unfavorable that the American people elected a 34-time convicted felon and an insurrectionist in a sweeping landslide because he seemed like the only person who could fix the mess you created. Now, this is where Sunny Hostin gets triggered. Stephen A. Smith explains to the panel that Biden is responsible for opening the borders and letting in 12 million illegal immigrants. Watch this.
message that the Democratic Party was disseminating. I'm challenging you on that. That is not what they were doing. I'm not talking
yes,
about.
it was.
I'm not talking
I
about the
was here.
intent.
We did it.
I was here too. I was alive and breathing right here on the air talking to everybody else. The bottom line is this: you're Joe Biden. You open borders. Now remember, Barack Obama deported more people than Trump did.
Yes.
You know what he didn't do? He didn't stick out his chest and bloviate about it. He just did it.
Yeah.
What does Joe Biden do? Who is a Democrat? Who's the vice president under Barack Obama? He opens borders. Over 12+ million people entered the country. But the biggest point I'm making.
He just took the key and just opened up a door?
He just took, well, that's part of it. Even the Democrats say they did it.
Sunny, with her signature snark, sarcastically says, so what? He just opened up the door. Yes, Sunny, that's exactly what he did. And you don't have to look further than Donald Trump to see the difference. All it took was Trump taking executive action, and suddenly, border crossings hit 20-year record lows. There was no new border legislation passed between Trump's first and second terms. It was simply Joe Biden signing executive orders and implementing policies that intentionally made the crisis worse. In a moment of epic irony, right after Stephen A. Smith speaks, they bring on the worst press secretary in history, Karine Jean-Pierre. And what's the first thing she says? It actually wasn't a mandate. Watch this.
Stephen was leaving. She said, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. I disagree with you.
Yes, I do.
And I was curious, and so that's why I was curious.
I do, on the mandate, on Donald Trump and his administration having a mandate. And we have to be super mindful and careful of this because he does not have a mandate. And what I mean by that is if you look at the numbers, just look at the facts. He won with the smallest margin of the popular vote since the 19th century. There was no coattail, meaning that it is the House is at a razor thin, and he's on his way in the first 100 days to be the most unpopular president in their first 100 days. That is not a mandate.
Now, I have to say, no president in their first 100 days, that is not a mandate. Think about it. They scheduled Karine Jean-Pierre to come on right after Stephen A. Smith because they knew he was going to destroy them. So, they needed someone to coddle the hurt feelings of the ladies on the panel and push their "we're perfect, we don't need to change anything" philosophy. And this goes back to the fragility and insecurity the Democrats have. They constantly lean on being college-educated because they have to convince themselves that their monstrous student debt and useless majors were actually worth something. It can't possibly be true, in their minds, that non-college-educated MAGA voters might actually be smarter than them. Instead of reevaluating their party's stance, which would require admitting they were wrong, they're more focused on comforting their fragile egos. They pat each other on the back and say, no, we didn't lose that bad. We were perfect. We did everything we could. It was just racism and sexism that made us lose. But then Alyssa steps in with a vicious clapback to Karine Jean-Pierre. She says,
The question is, does it matter if he has both houses of Congress in the White House?
It does matter because right now we have, what we're seeing in this administration is he's taking a wrecking ball to the government. And what that means, and so that people really understand as folks are sitting here and watching, there are folks who have been fired from the federal government, and now, is our water safe, right? Is our food safe?
Right.
Are the skies?
Right, and the skies, right? We have to worry about getting on a plane. Is that going to be safe?
Is there going to be a pandemic?
Is there going to be a pandemic? And not only that, folks who need their Social Security check, are you going to get it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is real. And they're doing it without concern of the fallout.
Right. They don't care.
And that is something that and look, I
I'm
understand.
pretty sure people didn't vote for those things.
Right, because where's the economy?
So, Karine Jean-Pierre reverts to the same old fear-mongering tactics the entire Democratic Party relies on. Oh, they might cut your Medicaid. They might cut your Medicare. They might cut Social Security. Planes are going to fall out of the sky. Pandemics are going to start popping up. You won't get your tax returns. The government's going to grind to a screeching halt. They have to lie and use these scare tactics because there's zero evidence to support any of their claims. And that's why the Democrats keep losing over and over again in court. They're desperate because they know that what Donald Trump is doing will actually be a net positive. They know that if he's successful, people will be so thrilled with the Republican Party that the Democrats might never win another election again. But here's the thing, they're so power-hungry that they don't care about improving the lives of their constituents. They just want to keep them afraid and Trump deranged so that, in a year's time, when people start seeing huge improvements from Trump's policies, they'll be too brainwashed to even acknowledge he did anything. Now, this last part is pure comedy. Karine Jean-Pierre tries to explain how bad she felt that everyone turned on Biden after it was exposed that he's, well, brain dead. But in doing so, she accidentally admits that Biden was so brain dead that she didn't even get to see him much. Whoopi Goldberg quickly cuts to the camera as everyone realizes Karine just delivered a massive cell phone. Watch this.
Shocking what I saw. But I also, I can't speculate, right? I don't know what would have happened. And anybody who says they do, they don't really know. And so I don't want to go to rehash the past. I don't think that's a good idea. Right now, again, 5-alarm fire, we need to move with strategy, with focus, and the Democratic Party needs to actually answer those questions that I put forth. Who are we and what are we fighting
how do
for?
we meet the moment?
And how do we meet the moment?
Press secretary, you were also an assistant to the president, so
Yeah.
that meant you were able to interact with the campaign off time.
Actually, I could not I had a special kind of role as the press secretary. I did not interact with it.
So you had no,
No, I did
as a
not.
commissioned officer.
I
the
could
president,
not,
you didn't?
because
so you
as
had
the press
no
secretary.
insight into the polling that showed she would have lost every swing
I
state?
did not
That ship has
because
sailed.
Well, it does matter, though.
Okay, here's
We
what's
can
going to happen.
flail
Hold
our arms
on.
about
We're going
Trump,
to take
but it
a
matters.
break.
So, Karine Jean-Pierre just confirmed what the bombshell Wall Street Journal report revealed. Biden was so hidden, so shrouded by his aides, that not even his cabinet secretaries or his own press secretary got to meet with him regularly. And Alyssa's like, yo, this kind of matters a little bit. But Whoopi? She's like, nah, nope, we're going to commercial break. Why? Because they had already watched Stephen A. Smith completely destroy their worldview. The last thing they needed was their token propagandist, Karine Jean-Pierre, making things worse by accidentally exposing the truth. It's hilarious. This just shows how desperate the Democrat media is to maintain their false. The real reason the Democrats are terrified of Donald Trump. It's not just about losing elections, it's about losing control. For decades, the Democratic Party has built a system that relies on heavy checkmark big government, heavy checkmark endless regulations, heavy checkmark a bloated bureaucracy. They've convinced people that this is the only way things can work. But Trump? He's proving them wrong. White heavy checkmark when Trump slashed regulations, the economy boomed. White heavy checkmark when he cut taxes, businesses thrived, and Americans kept more of their hard-earned money. White heavy checkmark when he secured the border, illegal immigration plummeted. White heavy checkmark when he put America first on the global stage, other countries actually respected us. These aren't just talking points, they're results. And that's what scares the Democrats the most. Because here's the thing, if Trump shows that government can be smaller, smarter, and more efficient, people will start asking dangerous questions. Small blue diamond, why do we need so many regulations? Small blue diamond, why is the government so bloated? Small blue diamond, why are we spending trillions of dollars on programs that don't work? And once people start asking those questions, the Democrats' entire system starts to crumble. That's why they're so desperate to stop him. They don't want people to see that there's a better way. They don't want people to realize that they've been lied to for years. They want to keep the status quo, because it benefits them, not you. The media's role in this. Let's not forget the media's role in all of this. They're not just biased, they're complicit. They've spent years. Loudspeaker pushing the Democrats' narrative. Crossmark ignoring their failures. Hammer attacking anyone who dares to challenge them. But now, thanks to Trump, people are waking up. They're seeing through the lies, the fear-mongering, and the propaganda. And that's why the media is in full panic mode. The Democrats' biggest weakness, their arrogance. The Democrats' biggest weakness is also their biggest strength, their arrogance. They're so convinced that they're right, they can't even imagine that they might be wrong. They think they can keep lying, keep spinning, and keep manipulating, and people will just go along with it. But they're wrong. Police car light people are tired of being lied to. Police car light, they're tired of being told what to think, what to say, and how to live their lives. Police car light, and they're ready for change. That's why Trump's message resonates so deeply. He's not just talking about policy, he's talking about freedom. Small blue diamond freedom from government overreach. Small blue diamond freedom from endless regulations. Small blue diamond freedom from a system that's rigged against the average American. And that's a message the Democrats can't compete with. What's next? The Democrats will keep small blue diamond lying. Small blue diamond fear-mongering. Small blue diamond trying to distract people from the truth. But the more they do, the more people will see through it. And when they do, the Democrats' house of cards will come crashing down. They conveniently leave out that Kamala Harris raised $1.5 billion compared to Donald Trump's $300 to $400 million. They conveniently leave out that Democrat billionaires have been buying politicians and swaying policies for decades. They're hellbent on making sure Donald Trump doesn't expose the truth. Heavy checkmark, the size of government can be vastly reduced. Heavy checkmark, regulations can be slashed. Heavy checkmark, the government can actually operate with fiscal responsibility. Why? Because if people see that, they'll never tolerate the incompetence and corruption of the current system again. Police car light, it's all about maintaining control, no matter the cost. Police car light. Final thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. White heavy checkmark, if you enjoyed the video, smash that like button. White heavy checkmark, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. White heavy checkmark, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Catch you in the next one. Rock it.